What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today's reaction video is something a little bit different, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's Australian culture shocks, 10 weird things about life in Australia. We've done loads of these on the USA and other places as well, but we've never done Australia. No. Going to be interesting. It's another, I imagine it's another one of them which is like two places with the same language, but divided by the language.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. I know I butchered that quote. I can't remember the exact wording, but you know what I mean. Again, we say weird. It's only weird because you're not used to it. You know what I mean? It's normal for you guys.
Yeah.
Stuff what we'll do, which is normal, will be weird for you guys as well. So don't take offence to that. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it should be. Don't know much about Australia.
Yeah.
Apart from that, it's hot.
It is very hot. And there's a lot of animals what can... Which is very, very brutal, yeah. Smash that button, guys. Smash that subscribe button. Let us know if you want to do a bit more Australian or other countries as well. This is only our first video per day, so there's another one going out later. And are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's get into it. Australian culture shocks. What we got? Let's go.
What's going on, guys? I'm Pete from Aussie English. Welcome to this episode today where I'm going to be talking about culture shock in Australia. Let's get into it.
Let's go. Okay, got a nice intro.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I was recently chatting to my wife, trying to come up with a list of things that she had culture shock with when she came to Australia. So if you don't know, my wife is originally from Brazil. Hey,
okay,
you're watching.
from Brazil.
And so she came to Australia, and obviously Brazil is a different country, different culture. When she got to Australia, there were a bunch of different things that she found strange. Cultural aspects of Australian life that she found different, weird, strange. So I made a list, and now let's go through 10 of those things. Okay? And let me know in the comments below if you found them weird as well. All right.
Yeah, it'll be different
Number
UK
one,
and Brazil.
Cars are incredibly cheap secondhand in Australia. So cars in Australia are actually really expensive when they're new, at least as far as I know, comparatively speaking, especially if you get into luxury cars like European luxury cars like Mercedes, BMW and Audi. In Australia, we used to have the Ford and Holden manufacturers here building the cars in Australia. They no longer do that. When they did that though, the government put tax on any cars that were luxury cars more than $60,000. And so you'll find that a lot of these cars from overseas that are luxury cars, especially those from Europe, will be very expensive compared to other places in the world.
Makes sense if they're
imported as well. She also found that second-hand cars were incredibly cheap. In Brazil, cars, whether new or second-hand, are apparently much more expensive, relatively speaking, than they are here. For instance, when I bought my second-hand Ford Falcon that I got recently, I recently gave it away though, but when I bought that second-hand, it was about 12 years old and it cost me $3,000. When I bought my first Holden wagon, again, it was about 18 years old and it cost me $2,500. So
I think that's pretty good.
So
I'd say the UK is pretty cheap.
Cars, if they're
I'd say
second-hand cars.
I think so
like,
too.
You know, like Fords and things that go for like $1,500.
I suppose it's just how good the car is. I can't comment on them ones because I don't know how much they'd go for in England second-hand.
Yeah, I feel like if you're getting a second-hand Audi, then you're still talking like after 15,000 probably. I'd say for a second-hand. I mean, our car's second-hand, right?
Yeah.
And that's
it depends what kind of car it is. So.
I'd say that's more considered a kind of not. It's not like a mega car. So
it's a Nissan Juke, by the way.
But it's not like, you know, and it depends how old it is.
But it was in 2017 model and stuff like that. Whereas I think a Ford, if you get a 12-year-old Ford, I can see it going for $3,000 over here. I don't know.
I see on like Facebook all the time, like first-time cars for people that are just passing the test, and they're like $1,500, $2,000.
Yeah, they're normally like your Ford Fiestas and stuff like that, aren't they? Well, a little bit less than $1,000 as well. Let us know in the comments if you know more on that. We're probably not experts.
I think it just depends on the car.
Definitely.
Their second-hand can be incredibly cheap. Number 2, cuts of meat.
Okay.
This is one that totally caught me by surprise. I had never thought about this, but the cuts of meat in Australia are very different from how they are in Brazil. One example was when I was looking up how to do Brazilian barbecues in Australia. I wanted to buy some meat and I wanted to try and do them authentically Brazil style, churrasco. I tried to get the cut of meat for picanha. Picanha is a style of Brazilian barbecue where they buy the rump part of the beef, like from the bull, right? and they put salt on it. There's fat on the beef, and they do it on a barbecue.
Sounds nice.
I tried to go and get this, and I couldn't find it anywhere. I couldn't find the picanha cut of meat at any different butchers that I went to. So I had to specifically ask them to get the entire part of the cow that they normally chop up into different cuts and remove that part for me to then use. Because actually for them, they would chop it up and use it as porterhouse steaks, which were cut through that slice of meat usually.
I think same for UK.
Like this, as opposed to taking out the whole section, the rump section, and using that instead. So I had no idea that the cuts of meat in Australia are very different from those in Brazil. And if you want to get the certain cuts of meat that you want to use from other cultures, other countries, you might have to go and specifically ask a butcher to cut them for you. Number 3.
I feel like that's the same in the UK.
I don't know much about that.
I don't know 100%, but I feel like that seems to me like a very Brazilian thing, like a Brazilian speciality thing. So I imagine it's cool. Maybe I'm wrong. If you're from the UK, please let us know. I feel like I'm learning more about Brazil than Australia in this video, though, which isn't a bad thing, by the way.
Yeah, I feel like this is a good video if you're from Australia, then you're learning things about Brazil in comparison to you.
Definitely.
But because we don't know about either, it's
hopefully on the next ones it'll be something we know about and we can actually say the UK equivalent. Because at the moment we're a little bit like we're not 100% sure, but we'll see how it goes.
Toilet paper.
Okay, toilet paper.
Toilet paper.
There's never enough.
I was aware that toilet paper isn't a universal thing when I went to Southeast Asia for the first time. I went to Indonesia, where some of the motels and hotels would have toilet paper because I guess they were used to foreigners from the West coming to Indonesia. But a lot of the time they had a hole in the ground and a bucket of water that you would use to wash yourself. Makes sense.
Wow.
But in Australia we use toilet paper.
I wouldn't say
One thing that was shocking to Kel was...
See, this is a weird title. Because it's not... This sounds like actually 10 weird things about life in Brazil.
No, yeah, exactly. Brazil or anywhere like
because
that.
I feel like Australia is kind of on par with the
a lot of
Europe, you know, like
I suppose it's
like
where you're coming from, yeah.
We
have toilet paper.
I wouldn't say that's a weird thing about life
I think
in Australia,
for us,
toilet paper.
We're learning about other foreign countries more than we are Australia.
It's almost like we're Australian at this point.
We're basically Australian, apparently.
But like we're on Australia's side.
We're on his side
of the culture.
So this is just culture shocks for the rest of the world, pretty much. Would you do that without toilet paper?
No, I could. Well, you'd have to, wouldn't you? You wouldn't have a choice. But I can't. I just.
Oh, I imagine just actually getting your hand as well. Oh.
Yeah, but what do you dry it with?
Let us know in the comments. What do you dry it with? Upside
Is
down.
that cold?
Upside down with a hand dryer.
Is that cold?
I assume it's cold. Yeah.
Just scoop it and then.
Yeah. Let us know.
It straight up
People
there.
experience it. It is obviously a cultural thing in places. Let us know in the comments below.
It's the fact that in Australia you can flush toilet paper down the toilet, because in Brazil the sewer system isn't set up to be able to handle flushing of toilet paper, so instead of flushing it you have to put it in a bin next to the toilet and empty that every day. So there you go. Toilet paper was one of those strange things in Australia that you can flush down the toilet.
It's not strange.
Number 4,
not strange
culture
to us
in Australia. Any of you guys who have come to Australia and spent a significant amount of time in some of the big cities in particular, like Sydney and Melbourne, will know that we are mental. We are crazy about our coffee. We take that stuff seriously. There are probably hundreds of cafes in the CBDs of Sydney and Melbourne alone. The quality of the beans that are used, the variety of different coffees that you can get, and the artisanry that is used, the skill with which people are trained up to make the coffee is pretty much as good as it ever gets anywhere in the world.
Oh, wow.
At least I'm told, right? I used to work in a cafe and that was one of the things they prided themselves most on.
Okay, so we've got good coffee.
So it may be a shock when you come to Australia that the coffee is very, very good. Not everywhere, but in a lot of places. Probably not very good if you go to Starbucks, because that's American style, and Americans...
That's rude.
They have their own way of doing coffee.
It's just different types of coffee, isn't it? Let us know in the comments.
I feel like if that's a comparison from his wife, they're coming from Brazil. I feel like Brazil is...
He was just... He didn't mention his wife then, did he? He was
No,
saying
this
that...
is where I'm getting confused, because
I'm
thinking about Brazil the whole time.
You are so lost on this video.
I'm thinking about Brazil.
Just take it face value. You're so lost, aren't you?
I know, but I'm just taking it as we're talking about Brazil versus Australia.
No, we're not. We're talking about culture shocks, but Brazil is the main influence, I guess. But this is just one, not including Brazil. Let us know in the comments if you had Australian coffee, if you had American coffee, and I guess British coffee.
I don't like coffee anyway.
Let us know in the comments what is better. I didn't know it was a known thing for Australian, but
did you try American coffee when we went?
I think I had a latte there. Yeah, just coffee's coffee to me. I'm not really a big fusspot, to be honest. But I understand that a lot of people prefer coffee a lot more than me, will like the different flavours and stuff. So if you've tried it each country...
It's like tea, isn't it? Like, you know your certain tea.
Oh, yeah, Yorkshire tea's way better.
So some people will know they're perfect, the different coffee types.
Definitely, where someone who doesn't drink much tea will be like, they all taste the same.
Taste the same, yeah.
Literally, that is the perfect example. So let us know in the comments, is Australian coffee better than everywhere else? Be interesting. I kind of want to try it now.
I'm going to go yeah, because I don't like it anyway. So I'll go yeah.
But what about Brazil?
I know. I was going to say I've never been to Brazil, but I've never been to Australia either.
Barbecues at camping grounds and at the beach.
Yeah, this is sick.
So again,
that's sick.
I grew up in Australia. I used to go camping all the time, several times a year with my parents. We would go to places in the bush, you know, forests, national parks, places like Wilson's Promontory in Victoria. Every time you go to those places, there tend to be places where you can barbecue food, you can cook food. Quite often they have gas, you might have to put some money in there to be able to use the gas. Maybe you have to bring your own fuel for the barbecue, you know, there might be some places, campsites where you have to make the fire yourself. But pretty much every campsite you go to will have some kind of barbecue for you to cook food.
I do like that.
And it's the same
I think we do
for a
have
lot
one
of
of those
beaches
in Jersey, though.
that
we
have
got one shared
tourist
one.
spots where people come in large numbers and they want to have food. So
Yeah,
there's
I like
barbecues everywhere. This was something that...
See, that is not a UK thing at all. I think in Jersey there is a couple.
We have a couple. They're not like proper barbecues like that. They are like... It's like is it the old-fashioned ones, like the granite ones?
I've just been told
They have
about
them around... I've been, like, when I was a kid, I think we had one. And it's like there's picnic benches and things, just in random spots. But obviously it's first come,
first serve, yeah.
But it's...
In England, that doesn't happen, I'm pretty sure. But I love the idea of it. I love just being able to rock up, have a barbecue there, not have to take your own stuff. You put it out.
I don't know how easy it is in Jersey to actually get there first.
Oh yeah, you've got to be there.
So imagine the
first.
summer is probably...
As soon as the sun's out, everyone's on
I'm
it.
talking like maybe a handful, less than 5 probably.
Yeah, it must be difficult, and you'd be good if you took all your food down. And then
So most people
have
have them on the beach, don't they, in Jersey?
Yeah, you take a little £1 ones, don't you?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Found really
Although they've been
strange,
banned in Jersey.
and
now.
it wasn't
I think
the
they're
cultural
okay now.
norm
Yeah.
in Brazil for you to go to camping grounds or to beaches and find places to just barbecue your own food. If you wanted to do that, you'd have to bring your own. BYO Barbie. In Australia, you don't have to.
I do like that.
Number 6, and this is one that Brazilians always tell me whenever I meet them. Our second-hand culture in Australia is different from Brazil, probably elsewhere in the world as well. So what happens if I have a couch in my house that I don't want anymore? I don't just throw it out. I don't just give it away to friends, although, you know, you could do that if you wanted. Quite often what will be done is it'll be taken outside, put on the nature strip with some cardboard that says free.
Oh, wow.
So people know that if they see junk or chairs, TVs, furniture, all that sort of stuff, if they see that in the nature strip out the front of someone's house, they know that it's free. Someone can take that.
That's pretty cool.
That it's free to a good home, that anyone can come and pick that up and take it home. And we do that all the time.
We have big laws, don't we?
A lot of the
Fly
stuff
tipping,
that we
you
have in
can't
our
do
house
that.
is either bought secondhand online through places like Gumtree.
I guess it's not fly tipping though, because if no one buys it after a certain amount of time, it's on your property, you then go and dump it.
But say like, if you do that on a estate, wouldn't you? I don't think you're allowed to do that in the States in Jersey.
Oh yeah, if you don't own the land you're putting it on,
And then
you
like
can't do it.
I don't think people do it because if you own the land, your land is away from.
Yeah, I think it just depends, doesn't it? I feel like if we want to do it like my mum's house or something like that, and people could see, I don't think there's any issues with that.
No, because that's your mum's property. But
yeah, it just depends where you are, doesn't it? It's not a big island, so there's less gardens and stuff like that for people to drive past and see it.
It's not the road, like the houses aren't set up like that, are they?
No,
there's not big front gardens.
But it's very similar to we've got a Jersey buy and sell where people post it on there and they can stay free. It's very similar, isn't it?
Facebook, or we've seen it on the side of the road and thought we don't want to waste that. We want to use it, so let's just bring it home and use it. So that's something you'll notice in Australia quite a lot. When you drive around the streets, there'll be furniture on nature strips, there'll be secondhand stuff, and it's free to be picked up. Number 7, drinking water from the tap.
Yeah.
This was another one that shocked me quite a lot because it's something I take for granted, that the water in our water system that gets brought to our houses is drinkable. You can drink the water out of the shower, when you're having a bath, you can drink any of the water that comes out of the pipes in your house, generally, right? Should be all good. That is
I would say, I don't know what it is in Australia. Be careful about bathroom stuff because that normally is a different tank.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's stormwater for your shower, your bathroom stuff like that. So that can be a bit dodgy. But in terms of your mains, as long as you're not on borehole, that's fine, isn't it, UK?
Yeah, I feel like it's becoming more of a thing to kind of not drink it, but I feel like that's just people. But people talk, isn't it? And
I ain't got an issue
people
with drinking
go, "Oh, you should have bottled water." But I was a kid. I grew up on tap water.
I don't like tap water.
I'd never had. My mum never poured bottled water into my juice.
Exactly.
It was always just out the tap.
I think that's a bit of a fad, isn't it?
That's what I mean. I feel like people now just. It's a bit of a sensitive topic.
I know what you mean. Smash that open, by the way, guys. Hopefully you're enjoying this content.
When we go on holiday, like Gran Canaria, you don't drink out the tap.
Yeah, then they don't clean it.
No, so like I can see what you mean.
So
by
Brazil,
places,
Spain, stuff
I
like
imagine.
that. It's just they're not cleaned. Let us know. Let us know in the comments. Is American tap water drinkable?
Definitely drink out the tap in America.
I think it is, but let us know in the comments.
Elsewhere in the world. Quite often when I was traveling in Southeast Asia, that would definitely not be something that foreigners like me should do, because we would quite often end up with sickness, end up on the toilet, riding the porcelain throne for quite a few days with
no
a digestive illness. In Australia, it tends to be fine. We put chlorine in the water to kill everything. There's fluoride in there too for your teeth. So that was something that really shocked me. Elsewhere in the world, you may not be able to drink out of the taps. I know that in Brazil, they quite often have purifiers for their water right next to their sinks in their kitchens.
Oh, wow.
In Australia, you won't see those things. There may be purifiers on the taps themselves.
Yeah.
Or people may have some kind of equipment in the fridge, a jug
like a filter
that purifies the water. But generally, anywhere in Australia that has flowing water that comes out of taps, it's fine to drink.
UK's the same.
It says otherwise.
Except bathroom, I'd kind of not.
Number 8, and I'm totally guilty of this. Leaving things unlocked. So we live in Ocean Grove, which is a seaside town down the coast, about an hour and a half away from Melbourne. And quite often, I leave the doors unlocked in the house. I leave my car unlocked.
Well, don't tell people where you live. And tell them that you leave everything unlocked, because it's not going to take them long to find you.
He's exposing himself. If people know who he is, did you really leave the door unlocked?
Why would you say that?
I don't know what the crime rate is in Australia. In the UK, that's never a thing because crime rate's too high. Jersey though, you can do it.
You definitely can. I mean, there's so many times. I mean, I always lock it because I'm scared anyway.
Yeah.
But there's so many times. I feel like more so now that people are starting to.
People definitely starting to lock it now, but 5 years ago, nobody locked it.
But you can walk, like I walk down the street, my bag open and things, nothing happens. But I would not do that in the UK.
Yeah, no, it's different. Jersey's very low crime rate, and I'm guessing Australia is as well to be able to do that.
There's very little robbery. There's very little criminality taking place in Ocean Grove. Most places
animals could kill you
in
though.
Australia
Ocean Grove
tend to be pretty safe, and you won't see things like massive locks on doors, grills protecting windows and doors,
I don't like that.
And people leaving their cars and their houses unlocked. Don't get me wrong. I definitely lock it from time to time when I'm going away or I'm going out for a long period of time and no one's at home. But this was something that my wife Kel from Brazil found very strange, that you would just leave doors open, or you would go to bed and have the gauze doors shut at night, which could just be opened to let air in. She would find that very strange that they would not be locked, and also that you wouldn't lock your car. Number 9, walking the streets at night. So when I met my wife, I was living in Melbourne, in North Melbourne, and quite often I would be busy during the day studying, and then I would go to the gym, I would go and do jiu-jitsu, I would come home, and at maybe 10 or 11 o'clock at night, I would go for a run, or I'd go for a walk, listen to a podcast, and just walk around the streets. I would walk through some of the parks, like Royal Park or Princes Park, and I'd be like, it's not a problem. That was a massive no-no for Kel. That was something that she would never, ever, ever do, because in Brazil, it's relatively unsafe to walk around by yourself at night.
I can see that.
Especially in places like parks where there's no light.
See, that's like Jersey and
that was
England
something
again.
that kind of shocked me as well.
You can walk around in England and Jersey. Obviously, you've always got to be careful of the dog anyway.
I feel like England,
I
I definitely would not want to do that.
But you can do it in England easily.
I think it depends on the area, doesn't it?
True,
and you know, you're...
I've never had, when I was younger, I never had an issue walking around late.
I would.
But you come from a very sheltered Jersey, haven't you? So you panic.
I wouldn't even walk around Jersey and do that. It freaks me out walking to the basement.
But Brazil, just from the stereotypes of Brazil and some things, I can definitely see how it must be scary.
Would you walk around America at night?
If I didn't know, it depends where you are. I guess it depends where you are.
Like New York City is like.
I think
daylight,
exactly, daylight.
But
then if you're in a massive suburban town, you probably could. You know what I mean? It really depends where you are, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I was like, well, it's Australia. Well, it's pretty safe here. You can sort of walk around anywhere and it's, you're fine. Obviously, we have our own fair share of crime and sometimes bad things do happen to people, but usually you can walk around at night, especially in somewhere like a CBD, a city like Melbourne or Sydney, and you're perfectly safe. So that was something that she found very strange. That was a big culture shock for her when she found out that I would sometimes go for a walk around midnight throughout Melbourne, throughout the parks, with music in my ears or listening to a podcast, for an hour or so, and it was no big deal. But yeah, there you go. Number 10, guys, the very last one for this episode in Australia is that there is very little rubbish or littering in Australia compared to a lot of other countries. Culturally, this is a big no-no. So I cringe every time I see someone smoking who throws their cigarette butt on the ground.
Yeah, don't do that.
Usually there's a bin within walking distance that they could just put the cigarette out and throw it in the bin. The same with throwing newspapers or any kind of rubbish, bottles, whatever it is, on the ground. That tends to be a very big social no-no. You don't do that. You put it in the trash. We have bins all over the country, in parks, on streets, where you can throw your rubbish out. So in Australia, littering, it occurs, people definitely litter, but it is a social no-no. You will quite often be yelled at or people will say something if you do that in front of people.
I like how people call people out.
So that's it for this episode, guys.
That was awesome. I enjoyed that.
Definitely, yeah. I feel like I want to go to Australia.
On the littering, it's kind of like, you live in that place, why not look after it? If everyone kind of does the little bit to look after it, then it's not going to get in any worse.
Jersey's not so bad, is it?
Jersey's not too bad, but England's bad for littering and stuff like that. Smash that button if you enjoy, guys. Smash that subscribe button. That was a very interesting video. I feel like it's a super long one.
It went a few different ways, but in the end, I kind of got in it.
Yeah, I think you were really confused
at the start. The whole Brazil thing confused me at the start, but I feel like
you understood it a bit more. Then I think the one without the Brazil, which we're just talking in general,
threw me
off.
I was fine until then. That threw me off.
Smash that button, guys. Smash that subscribe button. Let us know if there's any other videos, which is maybe UK, Australian culture shocks, or maybe just anything in the comments below. We'd seriously appreciate it. And what's your view?
Have a fantastic day.
And we'll see you legends in the next one. Peace.